I've been in this field for 25 years, and I believe that we do really good work in Tennessee. We have great providers and great partners. People are healing every day, but for some reason, the data does not go down. Our anxiety and depression is still up. Our substance use data is up. We're the second worst state in the nation for the opioid crisis. I just couldn't wrap my head around being okay with doing what we're doing and seeing all this data continue to rise. It just kept signaling that there had to be something else. And whatever that was, we had to figure it out. So I started researching, and I remember saying, what is Ibogaine?
We're talking about Ibogaine.
Ibogaine?
Ibogaine.
Ibogaine.
Ibogaine
is showing incredible promise, helping people who are facing everything from traumatic brain injuries to substance use disorder.
People with dementia, Parkinson's, all have used Ibogaine and actually regrown brain matter and reversed brain aging.
What is the unique pathway that allows Ibogaine to help people with addictions?
Ibogaine has the unique ability to restore the brain's dopamine and serotonin production to its pre-opioid exposure levels within 36 to 48 hours.
Wow.
A Texas bill has been introduced to fund FDA-approved trials on Ibogaine.
Texas is now leading the way in the United States for the evaluation of Ibogaine as a potential medication that can help improve the lives of so many Americans. It's now law.
And so I started talking to researchers and people who were looking at this in different states and different countries, and looking at ways we can start to formulate a plan forward for Tennessee to engage in FDA clinical trials.
On behalf of all my brothers in the SEAL teams and the Special Forces community, we're asking you, as the lawmakers here in Tennessee, to get behind this bill, the Hope Treatment Act.
My name is Alex West, and I'm a 20-year retired Navy SEAL and with 15 combat deployments. I'm also the founder of a veteran nonprofit and an associate mental health counselor here in Nashville. I joined the Navy at 17, and at 20, I became a SEAL. At 23, I was the youngest person ever to go through SEAL Team 6 selection. My career reached its peak when I was asked to lead my assault team right up the middle of Osama bin Laden's compound. During the initial moment of the assault, my helicopter crashed during the insertion, herniating discs in my back, an injury I didn't feel until hours later and the mission was over. But it wasn't the physical injuries that haunted me from my time in the SEAL teams. It was the mental scars, the weight of not just the bin Laden raid, but the hundreds and hundreds of combat missions I'd partaken in, the stress of war, and the deep-rooted trauma that comes with it. 2 years later, I was back in Afghanistan, leading my team again. But this time, the war had caught up with me. I found myself sitting in my room with my assault rifle on my lap, contemplating ending my life. The suicidal ideation was so strong. As I sat there, ready to end my life, the moment was interrupted by our base being attacked by the Taliban, ironically snapping me out of that dark moment. When I retired in 2018, I had already been in weekly or bi-weekly therapy for over 8 years. I suffered from night terrors, flashbacks, isolation, and a growing dependence on alcohol to numb my pain. I kept fighting though, trying to get help. I continued my aforementioned weekly or bi-weekly therapy. I went to weekly PTSD veterans groups at the VA, and I was on a total of 5 medications. But the darkness didn't slow, and it got darker and darker. The suicidal thoughts only became stronger. Then one day, a close friend of mine, a man who I've been on numerous combat operations with, told me we were going out of the country for Ibogaine treatment. I'd never heard of Ibogaine, and I asked him, why did we have to get out of the country to do it? And he informed me, well, because it was illegal here in America. But he kept pressing me. If I didn't go, he feared I would not survive. And he was probably right. I went through a 14-hour Ibogaine experience. It was grueling, but it saved my life. Today, I'm 6 years sober from alcohol and no longer on any medications, down from 5. My purpose now, as a man and as a clinician, is to help my clients never feel the pain and the darkness I once did.
My name's Dr. William Dennis. I'm a board-certified emergency physician with 28 years of practicing, also addiction medicine specialist, and I currently work for Advanced Correctional Health Care as Chief Medical Officer. We're the largest provider of mental health care, medical care, dental care in jails throughout the United States. We don't know of any pharmaceutical drugs that can be neuroplastic, kind of rewire the brain, take it back to its natural state. We still have a high incarceration rate, so something needs to change, and that's why I'm glad to be on this Ibogaine push, because it's one of the few things that gives me hope and people in my field hope that we can break that addiction cycle, that incarceration, that trauma cycle, and hopefully get people healed in their brains with the neuroplasticity, rewire their brains so that they don't have to come back to jail.
I was a Navy SEAL combat medic for 16 years. In that time, I suffered multiple traumatic brain injuries from explosions and hard landings. I struggled with PTSD after losing several close friends. I worked on countless IED victims. Many were small children. The level of physical training a SEAL goes through, the op tempo, the demand on our mind, body, and soul, is something that most people will never comprehend. We were programmed by the fear of failure and dopamine. And yes, SEALs feel fear. We just wear a killer mask. And to be honest, addiction in the SEAL teams was unbelievable. It's how a lot of us coped with the pain, memories, and chronic stress. I spent 10 years going through the nation's most sophisticated mental health treatments. And after 16 years of honorable service, I hit rock bottom. I had lost everything. Until one of my teammates reached out and told me I needed to try this medicine called Ibogaine. I said, Ibo who? He told me it was a powerful psychedelic alkaloid from a root bark that grows in Gabon, Africa, and that it could cure opioid addictions and help treat PTSD. Ibogaine is something you do when you tried all other treatments and you've lost all hope. Because of Ibogaine, I am free from my past addictions, free from the invisible wounds of war, healed my migraines, healed my depression and anxiety. But this isn't just my story. In the past 7 years, I personally helped hundreds of veterans with Ibogaine in Mexico. And not just veterans, professional athletes, musicians, CEOs, and even lawmakers. Thousands of people report that they get more out of one Ibogaine treatment than 10 years of traditional talk therapy. Doing Ibogaine will always be one of the most profound experiences of my life. Ibogaine made it possible to feel again. No veteran should have to leave the country we served to get the treatment we deserve, and that's Ibogaine.
This Hope Treatment Act is our ask, our hope, that the state would pass this bill to allow us to do FDA clinical trials here in Tennessee.
Hello, I'm State Senator Paige Wally, and I want to talk to you about legislation that could save lives right here in Tennessee. Before I had the privilege of serving in the Senate, I was a clinical psychologist and I served as commissioner of the Department of Children's Services. But more than that, I'm a neighbor. I represent 8 rural counties here in Tennessee, and I know both the heartbeat of rural Tennessee and its heartbreak. In our small towns, we don't have the luxury of looking away from the opioid crisis and the pain our veterans are experiencing with PTSD. I talk to mothers in the grocery store who've lost sons to overdoses. I see grandmothers raising grandchildren because the parents are trapped in addiction. In rural Tennessee, these aren't statistics. These are people we sit next to in church. These are families that form the backbone of our communities. And right now, they are hurting. I've spent a career looking into the eyes of families shattered by addiction and trauma. And as a policymaker, I have to be honest, the tools we currently have aren't working fast enough. We're managing the crisis, but we aren't solving it. And while we wait, we're losing lives. This is why I'm sponsoring the Helping Open Pathways to Effective Treatment Act, or the HOPE Treatment Act, involving a promising medical treatment using a substance called Ibogaine. My vision is for Tennessee to lead the nation in medical innovation for mental health and addiction treatment. I want to thank my colleague, Chairman Brian Terry of the House Health Committee, for agreeing to sponsor this legislation in the House. His leadership on health policy will be essential to advancing this effort. Tennessee is ready to lead. We're ready to authorize this research that could finally offer real hope for many Tennesseans and their families devastated by addiction and mental health conditions. Thank you.